Hi, my name is Hector Garcia. I'm a CPA, an advanced QuickBooks Pro advisor, and I want to show you one of my favorite tools that I use during tax season to enter a lot of information that I get from bank statements into QuickBooks. Now, there are some cases in which I don't need to send it to QuickBooks. I just need to take the bank statement data and put it into Excel because I can do something within Excel. Maybe I can file a tax return by preparing some reports in Excel. But for the most part, I do the work to go from a bank statement into Excel to clean it up and then ultimately go to QuickBooks. So let me show you. I'm going to take a bank statement that's here, and this is the exact bank statement that I'm going to use for this example that you're looking at on the screen. And this is a bank statement that was scanned by my client. My client scanned the statement, gave it to me, gave me maybe 12 months worth of bank statements and says, here, do my accounting. Now, normally without this special software I'm going to show you, we would have to literally transcribe this information into Excel or QuickBooks, unless our bank actually gave us access to the digital information. But this is only really useful for when we don't have access to that digital information. And the software is called 2QBO Convert Pro Plus. It's a $300 software. Yeah, I know, ouch, right? It's a $300 software. You buy it by going into www.2quickbooks.com. And once you go into that website, let me show you what that website looks like. And you're going to scroll down, you're going to have a couple of choices. You're going to have CSV to QBO, QIF to QBO, PDF to QBO, and to QBO Convert Pro Plus. The one I recommend, the Professional Edition, which is the last one, that's the one that allows you to convert multiple file types input and multiple file types output. If you want to go straight just from a bank statement into QBO format to import into QuickBooks, you can simply get the PDF to QBO. But the one that I like, the 2QBO Convert Pro Plus, that one can actually do scan bank statements. It can do conversion to Excel and conversion to QuickBooks bank feeds. So I'm going to show you how that works. So the first thing I do is I launch the software and I take a look at my bank statement. I usually write down the account number, make sure that I'm using the correct account number when I create the file. I click on settings. I choose the bank, so I click here on lookup. I type Chase, select the bank, hit OK. Then I type in the account number. This is for me to tell the software that when it creates that digital file, that QuickBooks knows which bank account to attach the transactions to. So I type in the account number there, and I hit OK. Then I click on Convert. I select my PDF file. Again, this PDF file looks like this. This is this PDF file that's here. It's a scanned version of the bank statement. And I'm going to click on Preview. This is going to take about 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, because it does have to scan all the pages and it has to run something called OCR, optical character recognition, where the software is now going to try to figure out what's inside that statement. Now, while that converts, let me show you something real quick. Having the least amount of markings or no creases or nothing being highlighted or scratched out helps quite a bit. As a matter of fact, the more markings you have on the paper, the least probability is the software will pick up the information. In this particular one, there's no markings and no creases. It is a kind of a shadowy scan. Notice it has all these shadows, but that's generally okay. It's really the markings, the creases, the highlights, the check marks, all that stuff will really mess up with the scanning. But if you have a clean scan like this, it actually detects the information beautifully. Then when the conversion is complete, you're going to get basically sort of like an internal spreadsheet. And you're going to see every single line that was translated from PDF into the software. Now, this has not converted into any external file yet. It's still inside the software, waiting for you to figure out whether or not you're going to approve the conversion as is or not. Some of the really cool things that the software does is it actually reads the starting balance. It reads the starting balance, it reads the ending balance, total credits, total debits. It makes the calculation and makes sure that the statement actually reconciles. Now, what that means is it reads the statement, it takes a look at all the beginning balances, ending balances, every single line item it read, and it gives you a quick preview on whether or not it was a complete read. Now, not in every case it will reconcile. Sometimes it'll pick up maybe 90% or 95% of the transactions, which is still better than entering the vast majority of them by hand. In this particular case, it was actually a clean 100% read. Now, as you go down the line here, you can actually see how it read the information. In some cases, it will read it really wrong. In some cases, it will be mildly wrong. Like, let's see if it picks up anything wrong here. For the most part, this looks good. I know my bank statements, so these seem like the vendors more or less, the ones that we get. There's an error here. I detected it. Notice it has vendor LRS instead of IRS. There's a little magnifying glass on the right here. I love this feature. They just added this. It's really cool. When you click on the magnifying glass, it pops up the statement and it shows you which line it read, just so you can make sure and say, was that reading that correctly? And it read LRS because it was a capital I, and so maybe it thought that was a lowercase l. So it read LRS. So at this point, you can just make some of those smaller corrections here. So I can just double click here and change that to IRS, and that's it. So you can go down, you can make any corrections here you want, and now you have two choices. Once you're ready to go and you like the information that's here, you can actually click on Create QBO, and once you click on Create QBO, it's going to create something called a QBO file. And what a QBO file is, which looks like this, it's a file that then you can import into your QuickBooks, and it will run all the transactions via bank feeds, just as if you had connected QuickBooks to the bank directly. And if you're unfamiliar with that, I'll put some links below in the description on some videos I have where I go in depth in how bank feeds and downloaded transactions works, both in QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online. So I'll make sure to give you links to that if you don't know what bank feeds or downloaded transactions, what that process looks like inside QuickBooks. Now, I told you that was one of the options you can do. You can convert straight to a QBO file. However, I actually like doing something different. Let me open the file again. So now I'm going to show you a little bit of a different approach where I take this PDF that was read and converted, and it's straight to going into QBO to import into QuickBooks. I actually send it to Excel. So I do this save as CSV, and I click on that, and then it opens up a CSV file, which I can basically double click and it will open into Excel. Now, the huge benefit of having it in Excel is that I can really manipulate this and make this look exactly how I want it to look before it goes into QuickBooks. For example, I'm going to take in the first column and open it, second column, open it. Here's my dollar amount. Let me scroll up and down. I got negatives and positives. Beautiful. I'm going to start by just creating a quick header here. So I'm going to call this one date. Let's call this one payee. Call this one amount. And we'll call this one description. Okay, let's see what these two columns are. Maybe we need them, maybe we don't. Okay, it looks like it's additional information that we don't need. So let's delete D column. And then D would be check number. Perfect. So this is for my check numbers. Beautiful. Okay. So what can I do with this? So notice that on the E, on the description side, this will be what in QuickBooks is called memo. Okay. So when this downloads, whatever you put as the payee name when you bring it into QuickBooks is always going to retain the full description here on the right side. So that's actually a really important piece of information to know. Now on the left side, a couple of things that you may want to do is clean this up in a way that when it comes into QuickBooks, it just reads a lot faster and it automatically recognizes it into the vendors the way it looks in QuickBooks. So what I first do is I select all these columns here. I click data, I click filter, and then under payee, I'm going to click sort. And I'm basically going to look for patterns. So for example, you can see all these here have extra information that I don't need. You know, card purchase 1203 McDonald's. Now, the number one reason why I have to clean this in QuickBooks is because when the data comes from the bank into QuickBooks directly, QuickBooks can only read the first 31 characters. Therefore, let me show you a quick example. What will happen is when this information comes into QuickBooks, and this may be a problem you're already having, you know, with your bank feeds when you connect your bank, your QuickBooks to the bank, the banks don't think about these really important things that we need more than 31 characters. So what ends up happening is, and I'm going to type it here. I'm going to do this formula called left 31, and I'm going to show you what will happen when it brings in only 31 characters. Now, in some cases, the vendors, the first 31 characters works, like McDonald's worked pretty well, Starbucks worked pretty well, but then we get to some of these and notice how these are all cut. Look at these. These are all cut. So you may already have this problem with your QuickBooks, with your bank, with the download, and this should explain why they come cut like this. And then basically the second half of the information goes into the memo side, and it's extremely difficult to read. So this is why I like to bring them in Excel first, because I can clean them up. So the way I would clean these up, and there's some techniques. Let me delete this. There's some techniques. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to do something called text to column. So I'm going to grab all these here, this small group here, that all have the same pattern. Let me just tell you what the pattern is. The pattern is, if you actually take a straight line, let me see, so we're going to take a straight line here, pretty much at the same amount of characters. There's basically garbage that we don't need, and everything to the right of that, it's good. So what we do is we select that data, we click on their data, and then we click on text to columns, and then we're going to click on fix with, then we click on next, then we're going to select what we don't need. So we don't need this, we don't need that, and we basically only need one splitter. So you're only going to have one line splitting up these two pieces of information. So you see it there. Let me zoom in. So you notice right there's my line, right? So all the ones that I selected are going to be split into two. So I'm going to click on next, and then the first group I don't want. That's just garbage. I don't need that information. That's completely irrelevant to me. So I'm going to click on do not import this column, and then this one's good. I'm going to bring this one in. So I'm going to click on finish, and you're going to notice something amazing is going to happen. Notice this side of the screen here. I'm going to click on finish, and boom, it all got cleaned up. So I got rid of all that garbage that I don't need. And again, I had to do that. I had to do that in Excel in order to be able to fix it. Now, that software that I was referring to, this software right here, it can open current PDF files, and it can also open the actual .qbo file you get from the bank. So even the banks that provide these QBO files are supposed to be perfect, they contain errors. So this software allows me to open it, convert it into Excel, so then I can clean it in Excel, and then I'm going to show you how to bring it back from Excel into QuickBooks. And there are some cases in which the banks give you the Excel data like this, not the PDF data, not the QBO data, and that's also beneficial to bring them in Excel, clean them up, and then convert them into a QuickBooks importable format. Let's take a look at these. These also have the same similar pattern. So I'll select all these that have these card purchases with PIN, which are debit card transactions that were used with a PIN number. Delimit it with next. I can compress all these columns into themselves, and I only basically need one line. One line. There you go. One line, beautiful. No more lines, perfect. We click on next, select this, do not import, and we'll do finish. Beautiful, that cleans those up. And then we got the same thing here. Now the other thing you can do is you can do a find and replace. I'm gonna show you a different example. So I'm gonna take this whole text here, I'm gonna copy it, and then I'll select these two and I hit Control F on my keyboard. I click on replace. I'm gonna paste the find what, and I'm gonna replace it with nothing. But then the two numbers, I'm gonna replace them with question marks. I'm gonna do question mark, hyphen, question mark, space. And what this does is this tells Excel that all this information plus any characters where those question marks are, find them and replace them with nothing. And this does the same thing as the text to columns, but there are cases in which you don't have these perfect patterns where you can just cut them off like that, and find and replace will work. So I'll click on replace all, and you will notice how it cleaned them up beautifully here on this side. Perfect. Let me see what else we got here. I think we're good here. Oh, same thing. We have online transfer. So we got garbage dates here. So we'll do the same thing. Text to columns, fix with, next. We only need one line. Cutting these two in half. Next, don't import the first column. Finish. Look at that. What a beauty. Now this information could come into QuickBooks because the first 31 characters are much more relevant. Same thing here with these ATM deposits. So we do text to columns, fixed width, next. You can already observe our pattern here. I love text to columns. I think it's probably one of the best things that Excel has ever given us, and it's extremely underrated. I think a lot of people, just don't know the power of it, or just don't run into situations where they go, that's a text to column scenario. Next, I don't need the first column. Next, and again, I'm not worried about what I'm deleting, because this memo column that the software brought, which was basically the entire string, payee and description, puts it into one long string, it's still there. So I'm still preserving the exact same information that the bank is giving me, which is really, really good. And I got another situation here, but this one's just one, so I'll just delete it by hand. Perfect. So now I got a perfectly clean Excel file that now I can import into QuickBooks. Let me see what else here. Yeah, for the most part, this looks great. Oh, another note. Sometimes these online transfers, sometimes with these transfers, you do lose some characters just because it has the word online transfer from. So I actually don't know. Let me do a quick 31 character test on this one. So equals left 31 characters. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, so this is good because this one actually brings it in. But I've had some situations where it will say something like automated online transfer from, and the word automated will basically cut the numbers. I'll show you here real quick. I'll just show you automated. Like I've had some clients with this, and they basically, you lose it. So when it actually comes into QuickBooks, you have no number. So this would be like, if that was the case, that would be another scenario where maybe you want to just get rid of the word online. So you do Control F, replace, type online with a space, and then click replace all, and it does it all in the selected ones. So that's just basically another example. Let me delete this extra one on what you can do. Now, one of the most killer techniques, and I'll tell you, I don't give this one away too often, but it is a huge differentiator in how I work with my clients. My clients, I usually give them two prices. I say, look, if you want me to transcribe the checks, which you're going to give me a bunch of check images and I have to read one by one and read your handwriting and figure out what these checks are, I'm going to charge you one fee. But if I give you a spreadsheet of all your checks, and you're looking at 1 month, so imagine if I had done this 12 times with 12 months worth, and you got about 20 checks per month. I mean, that's 250 checks that you'll be transcribing every single month, right? So so imagine if I give my client a spreadsheet, I basically just copy and paste this piece into a separate spreadsheet and say, hey, your job is basically just to type in the vendor's name here. So if this was, Carlos Gomez, and this was, Steven Smith, whatever, you type it in for me. Then I take that spreadsheet, copy and paste it into here. And then I take this spreadsheet and I convert it into QuickBooks. And guess what? When I bring in the online banking, I don't have to be guessing what those checks are. Those vendors will come in with that. And if the client gives you comments on the checks, perfect. They put them here in the memo section. Something like, contractor, or house rent, whatever those comments that your clients give you on the checks. Or I'm assuming you're an accountant, you're watching this, you may not be an accountant. What I'm saying is whatever comments they give you, that would be a perfect place to put them. And then once you import them into QuickBooks, those comments will come in with it. So let me show you how that will work to make that final conversion into QuickBooks, assuming that that you need them in QuickBooks. If you just need them in Excel, then you're great. You'll be good to go here. So if you need them in QuickBooks, you just save this CSV file, close it. We'll go to the same software, because that software, that the $300 one, the 2QBO Convert Pro Plus, can do everything. It can go from PDF to CSV, PDF to QBO, QBO to CSV, and CSV to QBO. So it can do all the conversions. So when I click on Convert, I'm going to go and select that CSV file that I just worked with. I'll click on Preview just to see what that looks like real quick. Okay, and then we basically see the same thing we saw before. We'll just see the spreadsheet in here, and then just in case you want to check it before you do the conversion, at that point you can manually type the starting balance, because a CSV file doesn't have a starting balance. So you can also try to do the reconciliation piece with the CSV file. So I'm going to type in the starting balance 82232.63. So I type it up here, 82232.63. Hit tab, and then the system will then give me an ending balance, which then I can compare against the statement to make sure the information is complete. So that's a really just real quick good check and balance that you can do even with CSV files if you're not using PDF files. So then at this point you click on Create QBO, you hit yes, and then you take that QBO file, import it into QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop, and you'll be good to go to import the transactions via the QuickBooks bank feeds. Again, if you don't know how that process works, I'm putting a link in the description just for the bank feeds portion of QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online so you can see that piece. Last thing I want to show you is, again, the specific software can be purchased at 2quickbooks.com, and there's different levels of conversion. The one that I'm using, the one that does it all, is this one right here called QBO Converter Pro Plus. That's the big one. That's the professional edition. That's the one that does everything. Lastly, I have a video course called QuickBooks Academy, www.quickbooksacademy.com. And then inside QuickBooks Academy, I have multiple QuickBooks courses that I sell. They're all made by me or friends of mine, like people that I know that produce the courses for me. But there's one particular course called Importing Data from Banks, PDF, Excel, and QuickBooks Masterclass. It's a 3-hour webinar. It's a $300 course. And I show you this, what I just showed you, and I show you a whole bunch of other techniques in the areas of data cleanup in Excel, of converting other types of statements, other types of data, and just working with QuickBooks in the most possible fast way so you don't have to do any manual data entry. So you can enroll into my course is www.quickbooksacademy.com, or purchase the software and work on your own in www.2quickbooks.com. I hope you like this video. Hit like, add some comments, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in my live course. Thank you.